Alright, so I'm just going to be leaving Taiwan now, just at the airport, and I figured I would take a few moments, maybe summarize some thoughts about Taiwan and some of the differences between the West and some things you might expect if you come here. So let's start off maybe with public transportation, because if you're coming from North America, then this will be a pretty big difference, is how amazing the public transportation is. So the subways are really good. There's a lot of ways to get around on the subway. The bus system is really good. The card access with Easy Card, you can get anywhere. And it's not the biggest subway network in the world. It's nothing like Japan, but it is very extensive and it's very easy to use. All the signs are in English, and if you have that Easy Card, just tap in, tap out, and you don't have to worry about how much it costs to go where. So it's very simple. The train networks are also really great between cities, which is really nice to see. Again, if you're coming from North America, it's kind of new. That the train networks can get you across the country really well, especially the high-speed train, north to south of the country within 2.5 hours, which is pretty amazing. It goes like 280, maybe 300 kilometers an hour, so really fast. The trains also come really often, so it's not like there's one train a day or two trains a day or something. There's several trains an hour, even on the high-speed train. Maybe sometimes they're sold out because they are quite popular if you get there too last minute, but if you get your ticket in advance, it's no problem. So that's one really cool thing about Taiwan, is the public transportation. Now, if you're coming from Europe or other parts of Asia, it may not be so shockingly great, because those places also have great public transportation systems. But just at least coming from Canada, it's a pretty impressive thing to see. So that's one thing. Another thing is the poverty is very low here. So you don't see a lot of homelessness. The sort of wealth gap between most people is fairly small. So they have a really good social system to support people. So the crime ends up being very low. You don't have a lot of sort of day-to-day kind of crime. There is, of course, more like organized crime and that kind of thing, but really doesn't affect most people. So it is a very, very safe place as well. And just as a visitor or somebody living here, you're well taken care of in terms of a really good medical system and really good general kind of social services. So another really good thing is the weather in Taiwan's really nice. It's not super hot all year round. So even though it is in the tropics, it actually in the north of the country around Taipei, in the winter, so December, January, and early February, you're going to start to see some lower temperatures, maybe 12 degrees Celsius, and a lot of rain as well. So it is a mild winter, but there is a bit of a winter. In the south of the country, it's going to be a few degrees warmer. The summers, apparently, I haven't been here in the summer, but apparently are quite hot. So that's something where it does get a little bit hotter. But it is a really nice place to come, like maybe February or spring, February, March, because the weather is going to be really nice. It's not too hot, but it's warm. So in terms of getting around Taiwan, if you're an English speaker, it's pretty easy. Not a lot of people speak English well outside of Taipei, but the signs are always going to be in English and in Chinese as well. So it is very easy to get around public transportation and any kind of public signs. Even a lot of stores will have signs in English, so that makes it easy as a place to travel to as a foreigner. The food is fantastic, so you get a nice range of food. But one kind of con, I guess, on that side is that there's not a lot of vegetarian options. It is a very sort of meat-heavy culture, so you're going to find a lot of meat-heavy dishes. Sort of, I guess, a bit of a con as well in terms of food is maybe sort of the food safety area. Now, I've never been sick in Taiwan. I haven't heard of any friends having been sick here either. But some of the conditions in some of the restaurants, especially sort of mom and pop kind of places, don't look particularly clean or well maintained. So I would be a little cautious of that. But your mileage may vary on that. The food is delicious, and but maybe just kind of be a little bit careful of what you eat. But of course, on the other hand, the food is also very inexpensive. So you can get entire meals for maybe $2, $3, $4 at a lot of places, especially kind of smaller, some mom and pop places, or maybe some of the smaller chains. But you can also spend a lot more, of course, and so there are restaurants, especially kind of the nicer, fancier looking ones, where a meal will be $10 to $15, so similar prices to North America. But if you do want to live cheap and eat cheap, you can do that, and you can pretty much eat out every night and spend $3 a meal. So it's really good that way. The nature and scenery and history that you can experience kind of exploring the country is really amazing too. So if you like a very lush kind of climate where there's a lot of lush forests and jungles, that's really cool, because you can see a lot of that here. They have a really wide variety of nature. And if you're interested in history of Southeast Asia and China and Taiwan, then it's a good place to see kind of a lot of that history and find out a little bit more kind of about the background of the region. So there's a lot of really great places to explore for the history side of things too. If you work in tech or games, then Taiwan's a really great place too. So there's a really great startup ecosystem here. A lot of co-working places, and the government even helps to fund some of that co-working for local startups or companies that move here and are looking to set up shop in Taiwan. So in Taipei, for example, I went to some co-working places that were really well set up and had really cool communities. So there is a lot of great access to services like that. And also the salaries are a little bit lower here. So if you set up a tech company or an office here, you can get a little bit more for your money in terms of local cost of labor. So some of the other cons about Taiwan, the pollution in some of the bigger cities, like in Taipei, can be a little bit intense. It's a little bit noisy, especially from the scooters everywhere. So a lot of people use scooters, and they're not the best in terms of pollution. So there's a lot of kind of smog and fumes as you're walking down the street, and a lot of noise from those. That is starting to improve a little bit, just from the electric scooters and vehicles that are starting to be introduced. So it's nice to see that. It's still a tiny fraction of the majority of the scooters in transportation. And then I guess probably the final thing that's sort of a bit of a con, for me at least, maybe a lot of people would like this, is that it's a really cash-based society. So most restaurants are cash-based, so you do have to carry a bunch of cash with you. So it is a little bit of a pain in that way, but if you like to use cash, then maybe that's great. Any bigger restaurants or chains and things like train stations, those will all accept credit cards and bank cards, but it's just the kind of day-to-day sort of costs at eating out or something is cash-based. Also, foreign credit cards in some places may not work, so like I found in some grocery stores I had to use cash because my card was not accepted by their system. So there's a little bit of something to keep in mind when coming to Taiwan, is just making sure you have a little bit of cash with you as well.